A turning point has been reached in the Ukraine conflict. What happens next could determine the nation's future and have an impact on European security. The Ukrainians have spent the majority of the 18 months since Russia's invasion on the defense, preventing Moscow's forces from capturing more land. But this summer, Ukraine launched an offensive in an effort to drive the Russians from territory they had previously taken control of in the east and south of the nation, with the aid of billions of pounds worth of Western military hardware. Are Ukrainian troops making any genuine progress 2 months into this counteroffensive, with time running out before the arrival of winter? Large-scale maps of eastern and southern Ukraine quickly reveal that little has changed in the 2 months since the counteroffensive started. With its forces firmly entrenched, Russia still controls close to 1/5 of Ukraine, including the eastern cities of Donetsk and Mariupol, which it overran after a protracted siege. In reality, not much has changed in the 9 months since Ukraine's last important victory in November 2022, when it retook the southern city of Kherson and sizable portions of the northeast. However, not all of it has been negative for Ukraine. It claims that in the Donetsk area, its troops have just recently retaken the settlement of Staromayorsk. In the east, near Bakhmut, where there has been heavy combat, Ukraine has also reclaimed a few minor territory losses from earlier in the summer. Additionally, it has made modest progress in the southern Zaporizhia region, which is a crucial area where Ukraine must make a significant impact. Russian supply routes would be disrupted, and their forces in the Russian-annexed Crimea and farther west would be cut off by a Ukrainian drive through the expanse of territory held by Russia to the Sea of Azov. Where ground has been reclaimed is depicted on the map below. Large red areas denote territories under Russian control, whereas purple portions represent Ukraine-held or reclaimed territory. The black circles highlight the extent of Russian fortifications in this area. According to unbiased analysis, Ukrainian troops have only advanced a maximum of 10 miles, 16 kilometers, in 2 locations along the 100-mile, 160 kilometers, front in the area in the past 2 months. Though slower than Ukraine and its Western friends had hoped, progress is nonetheless being made. Utilizing weaponry and training from the West, Ukrainian soldiers have been launching 3 frontal assaults while searching for gaps in the 1,125-kilometer, 700-mile, front line. But the Russians anticipated their plans and spent months constructing the largest fortifications in recent memory. The satellite image below, obtained near Tokmak, shows the triple layers of trenches, bunkers, concrete pyramid tank traps, also known as dragon's teeth, and ditches that are covered in hundreds of landmines and pose a significant barrier to any Ukrainian advance. According to King's College London defense specialist Marina Myron, Ukraine has to lower its expectations in the south, particularly its desire to retake Crimea. "I don't think that will happen anytime soon," she says. The best they can hope for, according to Dr. Myron, is maybe retaking Tokmak, which is located on a crucial highway in the country's southeast and serves as a logistical base for Russian forces. Satellites disclose Russian defenses before a massive assault, a Ukrainian commander cautions, yielding no quick results. In June, Ukraine launched an armored column southward toward Tokmak, but they soon encountered difficulties. Videos posted on social media showed newly supplied Western Leopard tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles striking a minefield and then coming under fire from Russian artillery, according to Verify's cross-checking of the videos. The Russian army is proving to be remarkably creative and successful in defense, showing signs of having learned from some of the mistakes it made during the first year of the invasion. Anti-tank mines are employed frequently, for instance. The majority of mine-clearing vehicles given by the West can resist 1 strike from these mines, but not 2. According to reports, the Russians are stacking them on top of one another to increase the impact. Additionally, the Russians have begun to mine trenches. That has confirmed a video that shows Ukrainian military entering unoccupied positions south of Zaporizhia before some of the soldiers are killed by detonating buried explosives. However, the footage is too gruesome to show. Women fighting on the front lines in Ukraine say, "Russia said I was dead." Ukraine's covert campaign to disable Russian weapons. In addition to utilizing its Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopters, the Russian military is also making use of its air power. These helicopters are capable of launching rockets upon Ukrainian armored vehicles that have slowed down or stopped due to a minefield. It's also important to note that Ukraine lacks air superiority over the battleground. While Russia was constructing its defenses, Ukraine was assembling 12 newly constituted armored brigades, many of which had received training in Europe and were outfitted with weaponry superior to that of the Russians. In order to weaken Russia's defenses from within, Ukraine is now able to launch missiles, rockets, or shells well behind Russian lines, striking their fuel stores, ammunition hubs, and command and control centers. For instance, this British-made Storm Shadow missile, which has a range of more than 240 kilometers, 150 miles, has allowed Ukraine to move certain Russian positions farther from the front line. Cluster munitions from the US are also being used by Ukraine. Although many of them don't immediately detonate and pose a long-term risk, the US claims that they are proving successful against some well-established Russian locations. Cluster munitions, according to Jane's defense expert Gianluca Capovin, can be helpful but won't change the game. As we discovered last year, Russia possesses cluster munitions of its own and has also used them. Time is ultimately against Ukraine. The rainy season will have started by the time October rolls around, turning unpaved roads into muck and making further advancements challenging, if not impossible. The US presidential election cycle will already be underway by the time that concludes in the spring. If Ukraine cannot show any decisive gains on the battlefield by then, it is far from certain that US and NATO support will continue at their current high levels. For Kyiv, the clock is ticking. Meanwhile, Russia simply has to hang on to the territory it has illegally seized.